here's Brody Brazil.
You know, if there's one thing that I fully subscribe to after covering sports for a couple decades, it's that Game 7s hit different. And I can say that with the experience of being a fan of a team that's in a Game 7 situation or being in the media and covering a team that's about to play this elimination game on both sides. One team's going to be very happy with the result of Game 7. The other has their season come to an end. And it's always different in sports like hockey or basketball or baseball where you play an entire series. But the prior 6 games leading up to this, they do give you some clues. They do give you some ideas of the matchup in general, but now it all comes down to this. One game to decide who gets to move on and play the Dodgers in the World Series and whose season after 7, 8, 9 months of planning and preparation, whose season suddenly comes to an end tonight north of the border. So I've got 7 different little factoids here ahead of tonight's Game 7 between the Jays and Mariners up in Toronto. Here's how we got to the Game 7 situation, right? Like a crazy series that's played out. Now, none of this necessarily matters anymore, but it's a good backstory to kind of help you understand if you have not been following this series. Seattle on the road beats the Jays twice, 3-1 and then 10-3. And you're thinking, all right, now they're taking this series back to Seattle. At least win 1, maybe win 2, maybe it's a clean sweep, just like we saw on the NLCS side. But oh no, the Jays come out in Game 3 and wallop the Mariners. 13-4 final score, and then 8-2 in Game 4. That brings us to all of a sudden a switch where the home teams start winning games. After the first 4 games, we're still up in Seattle. They get a 6-2 final score in Game 5, and then the Jays come back home to Toronto for Game 6 just yesterday, and they win 6-2 final score. So really a back and forth between these two teams, but every single game, like if you look at inning by inning, it's been a lot of back and forth. And that leads me to like interesting point number 1 out of the 7 I'm going to make here. By the way, all of these pieces of information provided by Major League Baseball Network and their team of researchers. The Mariners and Blue Jays have been tied at the end of just 7 individual innings through the first 6 games of the ALCS. Think about that. Tied at the end of only 7 innings, meaning that 0-0 scores don't even last that long. Heck, you could have one game that was just scoreless through 7, but we haven't seen that. Somebody throws an early punch, somebody retaliates, or a lead is held, or there's back and forth. The bottom line is we have not seen a lot of tie game situations in this series through 6 games. That's just an interesting trend. Somebody's always had seemingly the upper hand, just tied through 7 innings through the first 6 games of this ALCS. Okay, and here's another crazy one from yesterday, from Sunday's Game 6 of this ALCS. Seattle hit into an inning-ending double play in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th frames yesterday on Sunday. They joined the 2005 Padres, NLDS Game 1, the 1995 Reds, NLCS Game 1, and the 1973 Mets World Series Game 4 against, the Oakland Athletics, as the only teams to do that since 1940 in 3 consecutive innings. And you talk about just a rally killer, right? Runners on base, inning-ending double plays, not just a double play, but a double play that costs you any more opportunity to score in that particular inning. So the 3rd, 4th, and 5th frames, and obviously the Blue Jays win. That's a huge turning point, those middle frames of that baseball game. We'll see, does any of that repeat itself in tonight's Game 7? Toronto lost its only Game 7 in franchise history, but that was so long ago, falling to the Royals in the 1985 ALCS. For perspective, I'm 44. I was 4 years old when that happened. This was 40 years ago. This will be Seattle's, by the way, first ever Game 7 in a postseason series, if you can believe it. I know in recent years they haven't been to as many postseasons. They've never won a World Series as a franchise. The Toronto Blue Jays have obviously done that. But you think about, what does any of this actually mean? Because I know this will get brought up. I know this will be part of the conversation. I'm passing it along only from a historical standpoint. If you ask me, this matters nothing to the actual baseball game tonight. It's only interesting in a sense of fan bases and what they've been through, but even in this case, it's been since 85. If you told me that Toronto lost its only Game 7 and it was in 2015, well, that's a little bit more fresh, right? You've got to have somebody in the fan base who is at least 50 years old to have really even lived through that or remembered that the Blue Jays in the 1985 ALCS. But interesting, right? Like, even the Jays have only had one Game 7 in their franchise, and the Mariners have never had any. So tonight is a little bit new for both sides and both fan bases. With another win, the Blue Jays would become just the fourth team to lose its first two games at home in a best-of-7 postseason series and then come back to claim the ultimate series. Teams had advanced in just 3 of the prior 28 instances. So we're talking about in the prior 28 times where you were the home team and you lost the first 2 games, only 3 of 28 times did that team come all the way back and win. Now, this is a huge if, right? Like, with another win, the Blue Jays would become just the fourth team to lose the first 2 and then go back to win the series if they ultimately take this Game 7 tonight. So certainly that's part of the storyline of this series. But again, what does Game 1 and 2 really matter right now to a Game 7? That's the interesting part. You kind of wipe the slate clean. I mean, really, after the first 4 games, and it's split evenly 2-2. None of the first 4 games matter. Now it's a short series. It's the best of 3. But now we've gone from it being a best of 7 to a best of 3, right, with 4 games in the books. Now we're 6 games deep, and it's really just the best of 1. It's the best of tonight's result up at Rogers Center. Home teams are 68 and 67 all time in winner-take-all postseason games, right? So that could be a Game 5 situation, a Game 3 situation, or a Game 7 situation. It's just these winner-take-all games where whoever wins gets to advance. That includes a 30-29 record in a best-of-7 series in such a contest, winner-takes-all. And Game 7s are always winner-take-all. But that's interesting, right? Overall, in all of the elimination games, 68 and 67 is the home team. Is there really even that much of an advantage? 30 and 29 in these best-of-7 series. Like, because you'd think, right, the Jays have been home for a while. It's their home crowd. They get Games 6 and 7 on the road, just like they had Games 6 and 7 at home, just like they had Games 1 and 2 at home. But in these Game 7s, that's interesting. Like, you bat last, you got the crowd on your side, you've got all the feels of your home ballpark, but it really doesn't translate. So maybe it does for the Jays. Maybe the Mariners can take some inspiration to this stat. But the home team, by the way, check this out. This is the overall big picture look at how home teams have done. You've probably seen this already on the screen. But the home team has lost Game 7 in 7 of the last 8 instances. So it used to be that home teams had an advantage. And this excludes 2020, by the way. Weird season. We'll throw it out the window. It's interesting that all of a sudden, home teams used to have that advantage. Now road teams. Let's just put it this way. Road teams have won Game 7s in 7 of the last 8 instances. But does that matter to these two teams and tonight's game and this series and this matchup? It shouldn't. But that's interesting, right? There's got to be something to it, but is it really applicable to us and here and tonight? This is just the 5th time since the LCS expanded to a best-of-7 format, used to be a best-of-5, now best-of-7 format that changed in 1985, that we've had one LCS result in a sweep, right? Like the Dodgers have swept the Brewers already. They're just waiting around for the World Series. And the other one went 7 games. And I guarantee you this will be a point of conversation as we enter into the World Series, whoever represents the American League, is that one team, the Dodgers, did their work so quickly, and now they're resting. Or are they getting rusty, right? Baseball's not meant to be a sport where you take 4 or 5 days off, but we'll see how many days it takes until the World Series gets underway here now that the ALCS has gone to a Game 7. This happened previously in 1988. Of course, that was also involving the Dodgers, the A's and the Dodgers. 2006, 2007, and 2012. In each of those 4 instances, the team winning the 7-game LCS and not sweeping, the team that went the distance, went on to win the World Series. That's a Sarah Langs stat, by the way. Shout out Sarah Langs. I feel more established to be pumping out Sarah Langs stats here on the YouTube channel. It gives me some credibility to just name drop friend of the channel, Sarah Langs. She's great. So bottom line here, right? Think about this. It might actually be beneficial for either the Mariners or Jays and whoever gets to advance here to keep your series rolling, to play more games, to have that competitive juice keep flowing. Maybe the Dodgers did themselves a terrible thing by actually sweeping through that series against Milwaukee. Now they have to sit idle and kind of get like how the kicker would get iced in football. Maybe that's going to happen to some degree to them. We'll find out. Seattle has scored first in 9 of its 11 games this postseason, right? So there's a trend. Now we talk about trends that do and don't matter. Like this is a team facing different matchups, different pitchers, different ballparks, but they tend to score first. We'll see if that happens tonight at Rogers Center. Seattle has also scored 21 of its 27 runs in this series against Toronto via the home run, to the tune of 78% of their runs coming off the long ball. So we know they score first. We know they score a lot via the home run. How does it play out tonight in Canada? Game 7 and a battle of the towers. You've got the CN Tower on the left. Baseball game will be played in the shadows of that. And the Space Needle in Seattle. It's a little farther away from the ballpark and T-Mobile Park, but will there be more baseball in Seattle this season? If there will be, it's going to be a World Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will it be an all-West Coast World Series, Seattle and Los Angeles? Or will we have one of the biggest cities in the United States going up against one of the biggest city in Canada, Toronto? Is that set to be the matchup? We're about to find out tonight. Thanks for checking out this video. I'd love your comments below. Also, a thumbs up while you're down there helps me, the video, and the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to see you back here next time.